On today's show, it's all about women anglers of Winni. We tag along as these ladies take part in a fishing tournament with a great cause. Next, a big buck field of dreams might best describe a Minnesota farm called Zumbro Whitetails, where reigns the bone collector, maybe the largest whitetail ever in captivity. Up next, it's time for a walk in the park. This fall, we head to a hiker's paradise, complete with overlooks of the Sawtooth Mountains and cascading waterfalls. And this week, our Minnesota Bound Classic is a story about a tree that might look like an evergreen, but not in the autumn. Don't miss 101 lesson on the Tamarack tree. Those stories and more next.
Minnesota Bound. Brought to you by Minnesota's select GMC dealers.
Hi everybody, Raven and I welcome you to the show. A question. Men have walleye fishing contests or just fishing contests. Why can't women have one too? Well, turns out they can, as we tagged along with the women on Winni. Just another day for fishing? Not really. Whenever and wherever anglers gather, there's always a little friendly competition. Who will catch the most or biggest?
Her first year this year, I bet she's all nervous.
Nervous, of course. This time it's the women anglers of Winni going to float to answer the age-old question, who's the best angler or luckiest?
This is my second year with the Women on Winni tournament, but I've been fishing for 25, so. We have to run the boats, we have to net the fish, we have to bait the hooks. Everything that, the men would do, the women have to do. So it's just for girls, it's a fun time.
It's a competitive tournament, but yet it's fun. It's like I try to get a lot of women that I know to come in and fish it because it's a fun tournament.
I think it's special because, some girls fish in pontoons from large boats to small boats. It's pretty good competition out there. Everybody's pretty good fishermen, so.
And so it begins, a fishing contest for women only. But on this day, the wind has Lake Winni stirred up.
We don't have any water in the boat this year.
Famed fishing guide Tom Newstrom is the tournament director and, fishing coach.
Yeah, we started out 16 years ago, and we actually started out with only about 12 boats. Today, for instance, we have 22 teams competing. That's 44 women. 44 hardcore fishermen that want to go out and catch some fish and have fun. They can go out and catch walleyes, northern perch. They have a great time. And I'll tell you what, they can put the guys to shame with some of the boats that they've got. These girls bring in fish, and they have a wonderful time doing it. Winni is probably one of the best-known walleye lakes in the state. It has a very diversified fishery. You can catch a lot of nice northerns, you can catch big perch. So it gives the girls an opportunity to catch different species of fish. And that's why our awards are kind of geared that way too.
Over the years, the Women on Winni tournament has produced lots of fish. Some big and some small have been hauled in. Under the rules, a big perch might win as much as a big walleye. But on this day, it seems only the wind was winning on Winni.
We're going over to school or something. Or beads, I don't know.
Right now, anything we can. Right. Yay!
Ooh, we're keeping that one. It's the biggest one we've got.
We're keeping it!
It's the keeper.
Tom, the fishing coach, offers advice, but the wind and waves combine for a tough bite.
You're in the lake, right?
I don't know. You catch a northern, make sure you keep it.
Yeah.
On this day, even the local fishing experts weren't catching much.
You got anything at all? What do you got?
Awesome. A good laugh is always worth reeling in when the fish don't bite. As every angler soon learns, there's more to fishing than catching. Coming up, a story about the biggest and best. Tag along as we visit a place called Zumbro River Whitetails and a big buck named Bone Collector.
Minnesota Bound, brought to you by Minnesota Select GMC dealers. Connecticut. Ellsworth Creamery. And by Borderview Lodge.
Welcome back. You know, every deer hunter in America sits in a tree or on the field and wishes and hopes to see a big whitetail buck. Well, our next story is about a place that raises them. They are all over the place. Old MacDonald never had a farm like this. A field of dreams for deer hunters everywhere.
We started in 1998. Just a passion for hunting and being around whitetails. No better idea than to try to get out and get close to them. We started with a few and then found out that there was an opportunity to make some money doing it.
So began Steve Doherty's own dream, Zumbro River Whitetails, a 30-acre farmstead home to more than 100 deer, plus about 60 fawns. How do you keep them down on the farm? So how tall are these fences here?
They're 8 feet or 96 inches. That's what the minimum requirement is.
Can a deer go over 8 feet?
We've never had one go over. You know, we separate them by age and genetics. One thing we try to do is keep our bucks away from our does, especially in the fall. We are considered livestock. Basically, it's no different than cattle farming or anything else. You got to take care of them.
Take care of them means daily farm chores. Oh, aren't they cute? And they're kind of happy to see us. How old are these, Steve?
They're born in May.
You're about ready to get the boing. I'm out of here. You thought you were a coyote. Oh my goodness. You're pulling hard. Yeah, this is good stuff, huh? Cross-armed here. Boy, I didn't realize they tug so hard. How often do you have to do this? Once a day, huh? You guys are pros at this. Look at those tails wagging, they're happy. You about done? Huh? Almost. Mama's out of milk. Hard to believe these dainty fawns will just in a few months grow up to be mama deer, or if his daddy is this giant buck, will he end up with a giant antlers too?
Yep.
Giant antlers? Oh yes, that's another crop on this farm. A crop that brings in, pardon the pun, the big bucks.
This is a group of 2-year-olds. They got a lot of growing left to do yet, but they're getting about halfway done. Bone collector, yeah. A couple of these bigger ones are some of his offspring.
Bone collector? Okay, who's this bone collector buck? So he's the prize bull, so to speak, huh?
Yep. This is our main breeder buck. His name is Bone Collector XL. This seemed like the right name because he had a lot of antlers on his head. He's a 5-year-old this year, and he's going to end up being one of the largest whitetail deer ever raised. It's pretty much luck. It might never happen again. You can never duplicate them, or there would be no market for them.
That is something else. Whoa. I wonder what those antlers weigh.
He's probably close to a 400-pound deer.
Wow.
An incredible animal.
So do I dare ask, if I had my checkbook here, what would I have to write to buy him?
You'd be somewhere in that $250,000 range.
Wow. It's high-priced venison.
His offsprings that go to the hunting ranches, they bring upwards of anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000. Most of those bucks out there are going to bring that anywhere from probably $7,000 to $10,000 range.
What happens to the other deer? Those without giant antlers?
We offer hunting stock for hunting ranches. We do a lot of breeding. We do a lot of meat sales as far as, for venison market. Biggest thing is the breeding as far as the passing on our genetics on to other farms.
Steve's passion for deer farming has its roots in his passion for deer hunting.
With the amount of time I spent bow hunting, I've actually gained more respect for him. You realize what it takes for him to survive in the wild. A lot of things have to happen for it to get there. biggest thing is I don't get buck fever like I used to.
In recent years, deer farms in the Midwest have been suspected of spreading diseases, such as one called CWD, to wild deer. Doherty says it's not happening on his watch.
Every animal that leaves this farm at some point will be tested for CWD. We TB test and brucellosis test. We are a fully accredited herd. Basically, it's an air gun that we use for darting animals, for medicating. We're the most regulated industry of any livestock. I don't mind the testing because then I know what I've got. We're selling a nice, healthy product and we have no issues.
In the meantime, Bone Collector maintains his regal pose down on the farm, his head ornament the best there is. So when autumn comes and the rut begins, Bone Collector, as well as the other deer, may already know who'll win the mating game. Up next, it's an autumn walk in the park, North Shore style. The name says it all, Tettegouche.
Closed captioning is brought to you by the Yard.
Hey, it's time now for our series called A Walk in the Park, as we feature one of Minnesota's beautiful state parks. This week, it's Tettegouche, and videographer Mickey Us brings us the story.
Tettegouche State Park is a very rugged landscape, and it extends from the lake shore to the far inland. Hiking trails involve a lot of ups and downs, but with that extra work, you're rewarded with views of large vistas and the waterfalls.
It's the biggest park on the shoreline of over 9,000 acres, and there's plenty of room for everybody here.
Tettegouche State Park is located about an hour and a half up the North Shore from Duluth and is located about 5 miles from Silver Bay. The park was formed as sort of a response to the preservation of Tettegouche Camp. With the acquisition of that land, they built the park by acquiring lands around it. It was a great place to retreat to. The 1.7-mile hike into Tettegouche Camp will get you away from all the activity in the rest of the area. You're away from the hustle and bustle of the world. There's no cars allowed in there. Guests at the park can rent out the cabins. Activities on the lake, you can go canoeing, fishing in the lake, swimming in the lake. It's a nice spot to relax. There's a lot to do in the park. We have 23 miles of trails. There are 4 waterfalls within the park with trails that go to them. Behind me are the high falls. They're the highest falls within the state boundaries at 64 feet. They come crashing down through rhyolite bedrock that was formed 1.1 billion years ago. This is a very popular spot for people to come to the falls to take the hike here. Just because it's such a dramatic place. The hike up the baptism is about 3 miles round trip. Just below that are two-step falls, which is kind of a cascade of 2 steps. We're here at the park in the fall. The maple leaves are peak color, and the birches and aspens are on their way. One of our popular trails at the park is Shovel Point. Along the way, you get great views of the lake. You're going to be on the tops of very high cliffs. Great photography, and you may see the peregrine falcons soaring overhead as well.
It's fun to just come up here and just sit and watch. I find it relaxing. It's just beautiful. It inspires you to want to be a better photographer. I wish more people would come up and experience it.
Down on the lake shore itself, there's a lot of rock climbing. This is one of the most popular rock climbing areas in the upper Midwest. It's a worldwide destination for folks to come and rock climb.
Climbing here at Tettegouche is the best in Minnesota, in my opinion. I've been to all 4 corners of the state. Shoreline climbs here are unsurpassed. Definitely the cliffs are very challenging. The cliffs that we climb on here are anywhere from 100 feet to 220 feet. This is no place for beginners. Rock climbing for me is, I call it vertical chess. It's simple. You make the moves, you connect several moves together, and then you're back to the top.
The whole park is beautiful. There's so many different areas that you can go to and hike to.
One of the things I really love about working at this park is just kind of the world-class destination that it is. You've got the landscape and topography and the wilds here that just aren't really available to people anymore. Just a great place to get out and reconnect.
Still ahead, a Minnesota-bound classic on one of my favorite trees, a lesson about the tamarack.
Minnesota Bound, brought to you by Jesse Treble's Safe Basements of Minnesota, Beano in the Valley, Open Air Solutions, Maui Jim Sunglasses, and by Evinrude, the official outboard motor of Minnesota Bound.
As Minnesota marches towards winter, as we all know, the leaves change, the popples turn yellow and gold, and the oaks go to red, etc. But the evergreens, they stay green, you know, the pines, whatever. But there's one evergreen tree that does change to a brilliant yellow. It's the tamarack tree. Quite a story, the tamarack. It's a tree lovelier than poetry, to paraphrase Joyce Kilmer. It's also a tree most of us see without knowing what we see. Call it poetic justice for the tamarack tree. It looks like an evergreen one day, only to look days later like an autumn maple.
The tamarack's an interesting, it's what we call a deciduous conifer. It's one of those break-the-rule trees. The tamarack is a tree that has needles on it, has up to 15 small needles in each cluster. That in itself is not unusual, but what's unusual about it is that each fall, those needles turn bright yellow into a golden fiery yellow, and then they drop from the tree.
Along with two looks, the tamarack tree even has two names. It's known as the American larch to people who know trees. In the summer, people who don't know trees figure the larch/tamarack is just another pine tree. It's green, has needles. The wood is strong, but it grows in swamps. Maybe that's why you don't hear much about cabins or walls of tamarack. In early America, the pioneers thanked tamarack for lots of things. A concoction from the leaves or bark cured everything from piles to diarrhea. As the days of summer change to autumn, the tamarack too begins a transformation from plain green to brilliant yellow. Maybe tamaracks glow simply to be noticed. Author James Boswell once noted, "We must take our friends as they are." Perhaps the same should be said of the lowly tamarack. After all, any tree that cures diarrhea is a friend of mine. Ah, the beautiful tamarack tree. Here's betting you'll never look at that tree the same again, huh? Well, that about does it for us. Remember, introduce a kid to the great outdoors, show them a tamarack. I'm Ron Sharon, of course, always the star of their show. Who doesn't care about tamarack? It's Raven. Yes.
Transportation provided by Premier Transportation. Call 1-800-899-7433. For more information on these stories and more, catch us on the web at mnbound.com. Share your stories on the Minnesota Bound Facebook page under the Share Your Story tab.